What's up, everybody? It's my show with Scott Kosak. I am, of course, Scott Kosak, coming to you live and recorded from the 43953. Today is Sunday, January 4th, 2026. I'd like to say Happy New Year to you and yours. Cheers. Tonight we are drinking good old-fashioned H2O. Get back to that in a minute. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Kareem Ellis, Silent Stepchild, the Tie Guy, Ellis Tie Company. Kareem provided me the beat for my show. I really like it. It fits. Let that play out for just a minute. So yeah, Happy New Year. Not drinking any in January, so we are going to go adult beverage-less until January 31st. You can join me January 31st. I will be at the Steubenville Big Red Boosters Sportsman's Bash. That's going to be January 31st at St. Florian Hall in Wintersville. Tickets to get you in and get you into all of the drawings are $50. You can see me or any of the other boosters. If you would just like to be in on the tickets for the drawings, there's I think 25 drawings all in all. You can get tickets that get you just for the drawings. At any rate, that's January 31st, St. Florian Hall. Come out, join us. It was a good time last year. I anticipate it being a good time yet again this year. So, with that being said, tomorrow starts the first full trying to get back to normal week of the year. For all of you parents who have to get your kids off to school after the 2-week break, good luck with that. I wish you all the best tomorrow and this week coming up. All my educator friends, I believe that this puts you into the unofficial halfway point of the year. You're on the back nine. Let's go. At any rate, tonight I would like to talk about 1 Timothy chapter 6, the first half of verse 10 says, "For the love of money is the root of all evil." Now, put that in the back of your mind for just a minute. I got, you know me, I got a long path to get to say what I'm trying to say. So let's start with a story. So there's a pastor that I liked at one point in time, not really in agreement with too much of where he comes from now, but never mind all that. The story goes something like there's a man who's married. His wife likes to make a roast. He really loves how the roast turns out. He goes and watches her sometimes. She cuts the ends off the roast, puts it in, does all the various other things that go along with making a roast. Clearly, I don't know how to make a roast. I did assist my stepdad in making prime rib for Christmas dinner. But at any rate, sweetheart, why do you cut the ends off the roast? I don't. My mom taught me how to cook roast, and this was how she did it. It's always turned out delicious and wonderful. So it's just a recipe that I followed. So some other holiday, some other occasion, get to happen to be around mom, and she also makes the roast, and he notices also that she cuts the end off the roast, and he says to her, "Hey, I wanted to know from my missus why she cut the ends off the roast." She said, "You taught her how to cook it? What's up?" And she's like, I really don't know. My mom taught me, and basically we did it that way because that was the way that it was always done. And it just so happens to turn out at some other point in time, mom gets to be around a grandma and is basically like, "Hey, been following your recipe all this time. Why on earth do you cut the ends off your roast?" She says, "Because back when me and your dad were first together, my roast didn't fit in the pan. That's why I cut the ends off the roast." And so we have this situation of doing it that way because it was done that way at one point in time and no questioning of it being done any certain way. And I tell that story because I feel like this is what we do as it pertains to investment in retirement and financial and monetary security for our futures. Now, before I get much further, I would like to state very clearly that It's My Show with Scott Kosak is not here to give any kind of financial advice. I'm not here to tell you how to plan for your retirement or invest for your future. I'm just having a conversation. So, one of the things that I have been noticing lately, and a lot of the different places that I follow and listen to different things, it really seems as though times are tough. We look at different metrics of things, and we try to use that to give us a kind of a cheat sheet, quick answer, look, and approach at different things. So, if, for instance, you were going to buy a stock, you could look at a PE ratio, you could look at a price to earnings ratio, which is basically telling you that how much are people willing to pay for this stock for the $1 earning on the backside of it. Usually is what they have it to. So would you pay $5 to have an earning on that investment of $1 as it pertains to how dividends are paid out on stocks and things of that nature, or just the earnings of holding ownership of that stock? Well, some companies' PE ratio are ridiculously high, and it suggests that people believe that company has ridiculous amounts of growth to match how much they're willing to invest to get $1 out of it. So, for instance, Tesla has been recently 300 plus on its PE ratio, meaning people are willing to pay $300 for what is currently $1 return off of that investment. And so, like I say, basically why people do that is because they believe that in the future this company is going to grow and be so profitable that getting in at this level when whatever is going to be super advantageous to them or whatever. But we have our stock market was the very, very foundational start of the stock market before it was ever like a formal stock exchange was like 1792 is like the generally agreed upon time when these guys got together. These 24 New York investor types got together underneath of a tree of all places and decided that they were going to form this market for what eventually become what we have today. And I just don't think that is very long, deeply rooted in human history to be something that we can easily depend on, but we do easily depend on it. We take it for granted. If you're like any other normal human being, you have this idea of retirement or investment for your future in the back of your mind. I think we all kind of have that to some extent. When you're like 20 and everything functions properly and nothing aches when you go to bed, then you're maybe not as thinking about it as much as you are when you're like 50 and you're like, I have no idea why I have this weird pain in my rib cage and my seems like my shoulder clicks and ticks and makes all kind of noise whenever I lift it in any kind of a certain way. When you get to that point, you really think a lot more about I am definitely not going to be able to do this for all of the rest of my days. So all I'm getting at is at some point in time, unless you are independently wealthy or you're just totally fine with whatever, you think about some kind of retirement or investment. The problem that I fear is that much like the cutting the ends off of the roast, we have done things with this presupposition of things always continuing to go a certain way because it's always gone that certain way. And so if you have been living under a rock, or if you're somebody who's been in a coma for many years, you may not have ever heard of companies like BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. These companies are considered the big three in the financial investment world, and what they do is that they manage index funds. Lack of better understanding, index fund just means that you are taking a slice of the entirety of the stock market. And the reason why they do that is because historically the stock market continually rises. It never overall falls. You have certain stocks that don't do as well as other stocks. You have certain stocks that do phenomenal compared to one another or whatever. But by and large, overall, the stock market generally gets larger and does better than it did previous. So what you get with that is you take these things and you buy up, like I say, portions of the stock market so that it would mimic the return on what you see the stock market doing. But everybody's, if you have 401k, if you have some type of investment in something in the future, those investments all seem to have tentacles that kind of intertwine with one another. Like, even if you're not invested in BlackRock, State Street, or Vanguard index funds, you have something that touches them. They have something that touches you. If you're invested, even if you're invested and you don't have things specifically with them, because they hold such a large portion of people's stuff, and you give them the right to manage your stuff, then they have voting power in every single one of these companies. And what I seem to think, as I see and view things as I'm out and about looking around, is stuff's kind of miserable. I mean, I don't care where you go to. You can go to a Publix store in Florida. You can go to a Kroger in Ohio. You can go to a Giant Eagle in Pittsburgh, whatever the case might be. And it seems to be the same. Like, most people don't seem to really want to be there working. Everybody's kind of got like a look on their face of like, I don't know when it's all just going to come tumbling down, so to speak. And you go in there and the bread is more than it was. The milk is more than it was. The eggs have seemed to have, I don't know, come down a little. But like I say, we depend on these metrics telling us how things work and how things do. And I believe that we've lost something along the way. If you recall me talking not too many episodes ago about the idea of strawberry soda pop, and how the idea of strawberry soda pop was strawberry in name only. It had absolutely nothing within the ingredient makeup that made it be strawberry, except for that strawberry was on the label. And I believe that a lot of things that we look at are not necessarily there, but go in that direction. We live in a hyper reality as it pertains to so many different things, because we believe things to be how they once were, and they're simply not like that anymore. What exactly do I mean? So back to this idea of these big three being the ones who get to vote for everything. If they have financial vested interest in Lowe's, and they also have, vested interest in Home Depot, is that competition anymore? And if it's not competition, like, even if you go into those places and you look at what's on the shelf, like, it doesn't seem that there's really any competition within the things that are on the shelf. Take a look at appliances next time that you're in one of those places. Even when they have like 3 or 4 different names, which is all it's come down to anymore, is like 3 or 4 different names, they all look exactly the same. Why do they look exactly the same? Because they're all being built exactly the same. You go to these places and they're putting this brand out on a Monday, they're putting this brand out on a Tuesday, they're putting this brand out on a Wednesday. The same can be said of a lot of different electronics. Check out TVs next time that you happen to be in Best Buy or Walmart. You'll see that the bezels look exactly the same. The buttons are in the exact same place. Some of the internal components might be a little bit different, but only a little bit different. And so, like, it doesn't matter what you buy and where you buy it from. It's still feeding the exact same system. I liken our financial system to the Ouroboros. The Ouroboros is that picture of the snake, the circle snake, eating its own tail, consistently continuing to eat itself up while still trying to devour itself. That seems to me to be our current financial plan with no real solution in the future. And so we sit passively on this side of things, and we see different news articles, we see different things that come up about corruption here, and these people did this, and this company falsified tests, it falsified numbers, it whatever. You read about scandal all the time, and you sit there and you say, man, I can't believe that guy. Somebody in that kind of a position certainly made all kind of money, and how could you, making that kind of money, be that stupid to do something that, because the entire system just about demands that of them. See, we no longer have these businesses that care too much about the end user customer. I know I do in mine, and I think that a lot of small business owners, they do in theirs. They really do care about the quality of the service or the product that is coming out of their establishment. But it seems to me that all of our investments, all of our investment strategies are all then tied into these big conglomerate, these big corporate type entities. We no longer have our money working for us in things that we can go and actively be involved with. Unless you may be somebody who has real estate and you're renting properties or buying and selling properties, things like that. If that's you, more power to you. I tip my hat to you. But it just seems to me like we have all of these entities that don't really care what things look like. So long as it's not like pandemonium and chaos, so long as you can walk into Lowe's and buy something, they don't really care how much of a hassle it is, because where are you going to go? We closed down all the little guys. There's hardly any of them left. The ones that have survived have all been taken under the wing of Ace. So even with that, you got a third big company player in the idea of that. And on the other side of this, if you were prudent enough, if you were thinking ahead enough, and you have money invested in different things to where on that side of things you have a good idea what your monthly expenses are going to look like and what kind of things you need to survive. Back to this idea of these big conglomerates always having to turn some kind of return on investment. This is why the entire real estate market has just completely gone off the charts. A couple of years ago, you definitely heard some things about these big corporate entities coming in and buying places up. And they did this in many neighborhoods. In fact, what they would do, the scheme that they would pull, was that they would go into places and they would buy up all the homes that were for sale. And they would pay whatever the cost would be. Say, for instance, the average price of homes in neighborhood A is $250,000. And they go in and they buy up 20 of these $250,000 homes. And then they turn around and they sell a few of them for $750,000. Now there's no because all the homes are bought up, there's no real supply. people still want to be able to buy homes, and maybe in this reactionary thing of, wow, this is really going up. You have some people buy these homes for $750,000. Maybe even it is as shady as it would be is to have some shell companies on the back end buying some of these homes up for triple what you paid for them. So then you've basically turned all these other homes into being, triple the value, triple what they were once worth. And all that is a shady bunch of dealings in and of itself. And we can go down that rabbit hole for a long time. But the point that I want to make about this is that has bearing on things like property taxes. That has bearing on all kind of different things that, again, the metrics that we look at to make decisions on how things are. So if you had yourself planned for retirement to have some kind of a specific income at some point in time based off of the time that you spent at employer X, Y, or Z, now you get to a point where the property values have tripled. You probably didn't take that into any kind of a consideration, that your property value being tripled is going to, in some places, have bearing on what you pay in property taxes. But, also when preparing for retirement, did you plan on eggs being $7 a dozen? Did you plan on the overall cost of goods being what they are whenever you got there? Do you plan on the kind of costs involved with fixing and maintaining your property based off of the cost of things in 2026 versus what they were maybe when you retired in, 1990 something? On top of all of that is ridiculously rising healthcare costs, both in plans as well as co-pays, out of pocket expenses, those sorts of things. And people are definitely living longer than they have in the past, which would have some bearing. And so, listen, like I said, I'm not here trying to give any kind of financial advice. I'm not here trying to, I'm not here trying to broadcast a bunch of fear at you. I'm just simply asking a question of, is cutting the ends off the roast the proper way for us to make the roast? I don't know. I think that a lot of us have our fingers into a system that is based off of, listen, we all watched the whole pandemic thing come and go. And throughout that, I hope a lot of people have realized that science is not a definitive end-all, be-all. We figured it out. We've got the answers and just take it. Science is and has always been a method of observing how things happen. Like, that's the whole purpose. Do you remember your science projects back in the day? You come up with a hypothesis, and then through that hypothesis, you would go and you would conduct all these different tests and experiments. And on the other side of that, based off of a lot more of result A versus result B, made you then have a theory that A was the likeliness of said experiments. But even at that, even after you've proven it all out, it was all just still a theory. And so I'm wondering, we watched all that go down with, sickness, and you got to get tubes down your throat, and you got to get jibbity jabbed and all that happy malarkey. And then somehow on this end of things, even though, that's still a thing out there, somehow we can all be maskless at Walmart, standing less than 6 feet apart and not having to go one way down the aisle to get our peanut butter. So I say all that to say that the stock market has gone a certain way for a certain time because of certain things. And I just wonder if on this end of things, if we are all caught up in this fixation of return on investment only as it pertains to making money off of money and not really thinking about the overall thought process of the idea of return on investment. It may be financially returning for you, but in the grand scheme of things, are we really making things better? Is there an overall investment in all of this? I don't know. I'm just asking the question. I'm not going to sit here and act like I do not have a Robinhood account with some couple of bucks invested in this, that, or the next thing. I'm guilty. And even the fact that I jump on and shop with all these big conglomerate things when there are other choices that I can make, I'm guilty. I'm not going to stand here and act like I'm not guilty. But I don't know. I just wonder if we should maybe figure out a way to do this without cutting the ends off the roast. At any rate, I'm going to leave it at that. I really hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy listening to me talk and ramble about my crazy inner workings of my brain. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, peace.